Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bowo. We are in Deuteronomy. Where is it at? Right there, 4C. We're in the third section of Deuteronomy chapter 4. And so we have taken some time to actually get through the chapter, but it's been super fun. Hey, you can always check out the Devo archives at my YouTube channel at Bo Willette. So just Bo, B-E-A-U, O-U-E-L-L-E-T-T-E, very French Canadian. Popular name in French for sure, in France and parts of Quebec, of course. So Willette is a very kind of a common name, not something pretty out of the ordinary. So anyway, for us down here in the South, it might be a little weird though. But hope you guys are doing good today. It was a good day, good morning today. Nice outside, nice to just get a little sun and enjoy the cooler weather. There was a little bit of a crispness in the morning weather today in the Southwest. I know it's going to get blazing hot, so it's only a matter of time before it gets really warm. But anyway, it was nice if you got a chance to get out there and just check it out a little bit. So, Morning Devo. Through the Word in Deuteronomy, spending some good quality time in chapter 4, simply for the fact that I wanted to reiterate to those listening that Deuteronomy 4 is one of the chapters that you kind of want to highlight. It's kind of one of those, a lot of applicable statements are made in the book, and some of them, quite a bit of the ideas are reiterated throughout the New Testament. So that's why it's kind of a chapter that I've stalled on a little bit. So anyway, and I agree, Paulus and Blazing, heat is kind of nice. It is kind of fun. I kind of don't mind it on my bones, that's for sure. I like the heat. So check out verse 29 again. It's worth reiterating. It says, but from there, meaning there's a prediction in this chapter of Israel moving away from God. That they are in this covenant, this marital relationship with Yahweh, but they will move away from it, and that's kind of the prophetic part of this chapter, is that 26, 27, and 28 verse of this chapter, where they will be scattered throughout the world. Now, again, this is written a lot of years before Christ, right? I mean, you're talking what, 1400 years before Jesus, and it talks about Israel actually becoming a nation in the land and then being scattered all over the world. So some pretty cool prophetic passages, and God here begins again. We reiterate the idea of that He doesn't show any favoritism, right? That's right. But if therefore you seek the Lord with all your heart, you will find Him if you seek Him with all your heart and your soul. Okay, so it's cool. Seek the Lord your God, and you will find Him. Seek and you shall what? Find. That's right. That's right. You have not because you ask not. Meaning our ultimate treasure is just knowing Christ. And that's and that should be first and primary in our life. Hey, Casey has a good question. Good morning. What is Whosoever Students? That is really the student ministry at CCF. They have a Facebook page called Whosoever Students, taken from John 3:16. God so loved the world that whosoever. It's really an adoption of a wonderful ministry out of one of the Calvary chapels in Southern California, with some really wonderfully on fire brothers and sisters in Christ out there who call themselves the Whosoevers. And so that's why that term Whosoever Students is in there. Yeah, just so you know. So good question. So God should be primary, seeking Him, desiring Him above all things. By the way, when we do go outside, those allergies will bite you, won't they? Certainly will. So it says, when you are in distress, verse 30, and all these things come upon you in the latter days, when you turn to the Lord your God and obey His voice. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not forsake you or destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which He swore to them. So have you ever read in the New Testament where it says, God will never leave you nor forsake you? Here you go, another area where it's spoken of in the book of Deuteronomy. So again, Deuteronomy is quoted so much throughout the Bible. So you might really find some gems here that you might want to circle. So you might want to get your pencil out and circle verse 31. I will never leave you or forsake you. God is that beautiful husband in metaphorical idea, right? That he will stay there no matter what. We have a book of the Bible called Hosea that really shows this metaphor in a real life scenario of a man staying true to his wife, even though his wife goes to others. And it's a pretty powerful book. It's called Hosea. You can read that too. But this is the idea, is that God is faithful. He's going to stay faithful to his promise, to his covenant, right? That marital covenant, that covenant of I do. Remember in the book of Exodus, people of Israel said, I do, I will. Man, we are going to hold on to this covenant with you. You are our deliverer. You are, in a sense, purchasing us out of bondage, out of the land of Egypt. It says, for ask now concerning the days that are past, which were before you since the day God created man on the earth, and ask from one end of heaven to the other, whether any great thing like this has happened or anything like it has been heard. We talked a little bit about that radical nature of Israel and God, God's existence being wrapped up in the people of Israel. Meaning proof of his existence, right? Not God's existence obviously isn't contingent on Israel, but that the proof of God's being, his that he is the true and living God, should be seen in the people of Israel. Did any people ever hear the voice of God speaking out of the midst of the fire? And we kind of went over that section, right? But to you, verse 35, it was shown that you might know that the Lord himself is God. There is none other besides him. Isn't that cool? God has made himself known to you. How? Through his word, right? For me, who never really read the Bible at all, and I mean really didn't know the Bible at all, God just spoke to me on a beach. It was really weird, and it was one of those really odd encounters where I just was touched. It's just something touched me. And God, I say something, but I say it like back in the day something, but today I go, man, I was touched by the divine. And then that's when my quest to learn, what is eternity all about? What is there an eternity? What is truth? What is spiritual truth? And that's when I really picked up the Bible and really became serious about reading it. So out of heaven he let you hear his voice, that he might instruct you. On earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their descendants after them. So what's God's motivation? Love. Isn't that cool? I could kind of trust that today. What's God's motivation for things in my life? The difficulty, the trial. When my body's fading away as I get older. As that diagnosis comes in, as this happens and that happens. What is God's motivation in his intimate life with me? Well, it's his love. God sticks to his promises. Why? Because he loves us. He doesn't just love, but he lovingly loves. He loves to love, So his motivation to love isn't an obligatory love, but it's joy. He loves to love. Isn't that cool? Do I love to love? Do I have a loving kindness? Do I have a joyful love? What is or is it a burden? Do you do your work or your chores or your life with your spouse or your loved ones? Do you do them with a burden? Oh, I've got to do the dishes today. Oh, I have to sweep. Oh, I have to, do this. Instead of saying, man, thank you, Lord, for the dish. I got a dish to wash. That's awesome. Or, man, I got a floor to sweep. How awesome is that? instead of having that attitude of loving to love, think of it this way. What would a loving be, a quote loving act, something that looks like a loving act really being done out of obligation look like? It might look kind of dour. It might look kind of sour. It might look kind of burdened, right? Oh, I got to do the laundry. Oh, I got to do this. And it might look heavy, right? Instead of having a joyful motivation to do loving acts. So when I do loving acts, I have joy in my heart. That's the motivation. Why? Because I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I can even move to do the act itself. I'm grateful just for the bodily movement that I have, that I can even get over there and pick up that laundry, that I have a washer and dryer. All these things are super duper blessings. I mean, they're super duper, like amazing things. So it's like, is my motivation proper? Is it right? Am I loving to love? God loves. Notice, he loved, verse 37. He loved your forefathers. Were the forefathers the greatest people in the world? No. Were they anything different from you? No. They were just like us. But God loved your fathers, therefore he chose their descendants after them. Oh, big idea in the Bible. God chose, right? You might have heard the term election before, right? Election. Well, this is the idea. God chose. And this is big in the New Testament as well. The church is called the elect of Christ, right? The elect of Christ. Paula says when you have health issues, you look at things differently. Rather than, oh no, I have to do, it just switched. I have to do the laundry. You feel blessed that you can actually do it. I have learned this the hard way 4 years ago. It says, I was total care. Now I feel blessed for, I didn't care, but now I feel blessed for everything I can do. Oh, so true, right? And Casey says, when I'm dreading my treadmill time, I remember how blessed I am by God that I have health and ability to move. That's right. It's motivating. He is motivating. That's so true, right? So there's a lot of things, a lot of our motivations we have to look at and go, hey, even today, what is my motivation? Is it really to the glory of God, or what is it? Is it to something else? But don't you love this? God chose, not because Abraham was awesome, not because Isaac was awesome, not because Jacob was awesome. God chose simply because God loved. God's love moved in forth to choose, right? To say, you know what? I choose to love you. I am going to love you no matter what. And when you stick that kind of anchor into the soil, that anchor of choice into the soil, and you say, I'm going to choose to love, man, that is a great foundation. And that's not going to be easily moved when you make that decision that, hey, I'm choosing to love. And that's what we need to choose today in a world that is so crazily difficult in so many ways. Choosing to love like Christ, choosing to be like Jesus and go through what Jesus went through. That is something that we need to choose to do daily. So it says God chose the descendants after them. He brought them out of Egypt with his presence and his mighty power. Okay? His mighty power. Driving out from before you nations greater and mightier than you, to bring them in and to give you the land as an inheritance as this day. Now this is all a picture of the future. If you want to understand the book of Revelation in a nutshell, it just was told to you in a couple verses, right? God chose Israel. His mighty power through the Messiah will take care of all of Israel's enemies, and he will give them a safe place to rest. There you go. Revelation in a second, But that's it. 37 and 38 is really a picture of the future for Israel. And it was done in the past, and it'll be done in a more greater fulfillment in the future. Therefore, know this day and consider it in your heart that the Lord himself is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. There is no other. So this has happened twice. When these things go on like this in a short period of time in my Bible reading, a lot of times I'll take my pencil and I'll draw a line from one area of it, like in verse 35, it said, there is no other God besides him, but besides Yahweh, in verse 35. And the same thing was just told to us in verse 39. So I'll draw a little line from 35 to 39, just a little, a line, just, a line so I could see it and go, oh yeah, that's reiterated. And that tells my mind, like, there's something that God wants to make really clear to me. And that is, there is no other God besides Yahweh. And this is the weird work, the radical work that God is doing in Israel. Out of all the other nations that have turned to idolatry as descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, this part of the line of, this would be Shem, has now getting a revelation, another revelation, a clearer revelation of God once again. They had it before. They had an idea before, but they went astray. But God now chooses a group out of the massive amounts that have gone astray, and he calls them to his own. Jesus said, the road is great that leads to destruction, right? That's the majority. But he says, narrow is the path that leads to righteousness. Narrow, right? And few find it. Whoa, a lot to be thankful for today, right? So it says, you shall therefore keep the statutes of his commandments, which I command you today, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which the Lord your God is giving you for all time. So a promise, right? You hold fast and you're gonna live a long life. Then Moses set apart 3 cities on the side of the Jordan towards the rising of the sun, that the manslayer might flee there, who kills his neighbor unintentionally without having hated him in the past, and that by fleeing to one of these cities he might live. Okay, so he just reiterates this idea of those cities of refuge. Remember, Jesus is really our city of refuge, the place we can run when we're in trouble. Well, they have these little towns set up, these cities where people could run to, so that the avenger of blood, the one who was going to seek revenge and get them, didn't get them. They could actually, if they accidentally did something and someone was angry to the point of killing them, they could go to these cities and they would find refuge. And then there would be a court trial, that kind of thing. So it says in verse 44, now this is the law which Moses set before the children of Israel. These are the testimonies, the statutes, and the judgments which Moses spoke to the children of Israel after they came out of Egypt, on this side of the Jordan, in the valley opposite of Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, whom Moses and the children of Israel defeated after they came out of Egypt. So it's a reiteration of kind of the wonderful victory that Israel had. Now they're getting ready to enter the land. And it talks about how they took possession and now they're ready to go. And so now we're going to get into chapter 5. And it kind of goes into a reiteration. It's really cool of the law of God. And I find this chapter fascinating as well. It says, and Moses called all Israel and said to them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments. And the Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb, or Mount Sinai. The Lord talked to us face to face, or the Lord talked with you face to face on the mountain in the midst of the fire to Moses. I stood between the Lord and you at the time to declare to you the word of the Lord, for you were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up on the mountain. He said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Again, a reiteration of this wonderful deliverance. Hey, how many times do you like to hear about God's deliverance in your life? It's pretty cool, right? You shall have no other gods before me. Okay, so now we're going through what? The 10 Commandments, the covenant, right? You shall not make yourself any carved image. Anything that is in heaven, above, anything that's on earth, beneath, right? That's in the water. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them, for I am the Lord your God. I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. And a lot of people always freak out at that passage, but I like to look at it like this. Hey, God is always going to be consistent. He's always going to visit our descendants, and he's going to have to judge sin in their life as well as my life. Yeah. The idea isn't that because of your sin, someone innocent is going to be judged because of your sin. That's not what this is talking about. But it's talking about God's judgment is consistent throughout the generations. God will visit those iniquities of the fathers. He will visit upon the children and the children's children. He will judge and look at every family member. He will look at every ancestor, every down the line, progeny that we have, offspring that we have. And God will judge in the same manner. God shows no favoritism. It says, but God shows mercy to thousands who love me and keep my commandments, right? Mercy. Notice those who keep his commandments, what do they need? Mercy. Isn't that interesting? So those who follow God are people that know they need mercy. Do you know you need mercy? Yeah, you need mercy. You need mercy in your life. Yeah. If you don't need mercy, then why don't you think you need mercy? What is that going to reveal about you? If you don't feel like you need mercy, then you must feel pretty good, right? You might be comparing yourself though to your neighbor, and that's the problem. You might need to start comparing yourself to your Creator, right? And now you might see why you need some mercy. So it goes over, you shall not take the Lord your name in vain. Observe the Sabbath. And it says, honor your mother and father, verse 16. And you can read these in more detail. It's very cool. It's a great reiteration of the law. I just find this Deuteronomy 1, chapter 5, super awesome, super thorough. Honor your mom and dad, 17. Don't murder. You shall not murder. 18. You shall not commit adultery. Man, not good. 19. You shall not steal. 20. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And 20. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, his male servants, his female servants, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. Now, this last one, I'll just stop here today and kind of reflect on this one. And that is because this last one is the one that Paul, the writer of most of the New Testament, struggled with and knew he was undone because of. And what I mean by that is the writer of the New Testament, most of the New Testament, Paul the Pharisee, Paul the Apostle, he is the one who in Romans chapter 7 says that when I read, thou shalt not covet, he at that point knew that he was the ultimate sinner, man, that there's no way he could get to heaven based on observing these commandments. Because what these commandments do is they reveal your need for mercy. That's what they do. What did it say? It says, God shows mercy to thousands who keep to those who love me and keep my commandments. And then the commandments are listed. And hopefully when we read them, we go, I need the Lord, right? And we need mercy. That's the people who are saved. Those that need mercy, because they realize that, hey, do I covet? Have I desired things that aren't mine? Do I envy people that have more than me? Am I content? Am I satisfied? Not complacent, right? But am I content? Am I learning how to work with what I have, to steward what I have properly? Or am I desiring my neighbor's house, his field, right? His crops, right? Am I desiring his ox, right? Anything that is my neighbor's. Am I coveting those things? Do I wish ill will towards my neighbor? It's not that I can't look at something and go, man, that's awesome. Sure, it would be cool to have, but I don't covet it. I'm not wishing ill, especially on my neighbor so that I could get something. No, I got to get my mind in check and my heart in check. So these 10 commandments are there to show us our need for saving. So guess what? That's what we utilize when we're talking to people who maybe think they don't need God's mercy. Oh, you don't need God's mercy. Hey, have you ever lied? Yeah, I lied. Well, that makes you a liar. Have you ever stole anything? Anything at all? Well, yeah. Well, that makes you a stealer. Have you ever coveted ever in your life? Well, yeah. Well, that makes you a covetous person. You have broken God's holy law, and therefore you cannot dwell with God. You will die separated from God. You need his provision of mercy. Yeah, and his provision of mercy is seen in that place of refuge, and that place of refuge is Jesus. He is the one who has, in a sense, covered us with his righteousness. He's given us his righteousness. So he keeps the law. Jesus has kept the 10 commandments, not us, but he gives us that status of keeping the 10 commandments. By faith, he gives us the status that we become now in him. We, in a sense, share in his righteousness. Isn't that cool? Yeah, pretty radical. So very cool. You guys enjoy the day. I hope you just dwell a little bit on these chapters. They're so sweet. And we'll pick up next week, Lord willing, on, again, another Morning with Devo. So you guys are another Morning Devo with Bowo. So you guys take care, okay? Bye-bye.